We're back for our daily college basketball best bets here on Monday, March 2nd, and today the madness sort of begins. Not fully, but sort of begins today with our first conference tournament action. We will see a team today be eliminated from, I guess, potentially being national champions this year, right? We're eliminating teams from the Horizon League today, but there is a Horizon League conference tournament matchup today from Cleveland, Ohio. We've got the Cleveland State Vikings taking on the IU Indy Jaguars. So that'll be later in this video, and tomorrow we will really get into multiple tournaments getting started with the Sun Belt and the Patriot League and the Big South all playing tomorrow before a huge Wednesday slate. And every single day from here on out, we get more and more conference tournaments starting. So again, this is where it really gets fun. And I think the most underrated part of the entire college basketball season is the conference tournaments rather than the actual NCAA tournament. Obviously, again, March Madness is great, but this is something else because again, these are rivals playing. It's for a conference championship. It's just a little different. I'm not saying it's better, obviously, than the actual tournament itself, but it gets really exciting today. Now, only one game with the conference tourneys today, but of course, we keep getting more and more as we go on. So, folks, before we get into the video today, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more daily college basketball best bets here on the channel. Later today, we're going to have our NBA best bet, so make sure to join us later on the channel for that. And on Greedo Plays MMA yesterday, we posted our UFC 326 predictions. Max Holloway taking on Charles Oliveira for the BMF Championship. That was posted on Greedo Plays MMA yesterday, and it is linked in the description down below. And go subscribe to Greedo Plays MMA if you have not yet. Real quickly, before we get into the best bets, talking about yesterday real quick. Not our best day, 2-3. We start off the day hot. It was great, and then we just cooled off as the day went. Shout out to the Golden Griffins of Canisius, only losing by, I think it was 4 at home to Quinnipiac, so we'll take that. And then Manhattan beats Iona. Iona beats Manhattan on the road, so we start 2-0. And then the Hoosiers. And then the Hoosiers, who, I'm sorry, are just nowhere close to a tournament team. Still more of a tournament team than Auburn, by the way. But yeah, this could have been solved if they just beat Northwestern, or if they, I don't know. They can still get in the tournament if they go to Columbus and win, which I highly doubt at this point. But Indiana loses. Marquette just gets the shit beat out of them. I thought that team turned a page, but no, DePaul sweeps the season series for the first time in, I think, decades against Marquette. So that's something. And then UNC Wilmington, the nightcap pissed me off so much. UNC Wilmington's up double digits going to half against Charleston. They've only lost to one team in the CAA all year long. That's the Tribe of William and Mary. And yet Charleston in the second half has one of the most ridiculous shooting halves you're ever going to see. They put up 56 points, I think it was, in the second half on UNCW, beating the Seahawks by, I think it was 4 points. 2 points, 3 points. It came down to free throws. Charleston hit their free throws and won. Yeah, unbelievable stuff. I thought we had that one in the bag. Just a really bad, comeback L that UNC Wilmington took. So I still think they're going to win the CAA, but that was embarrassing. That sucked. So anyways, let's get on to the first of our 5 best bets today. We kick things off in the MEAC. And the MEAC conference tourney does not start, I believe, until next week or late this week. But we have a big matchup here between the 2 and 3 seeds currently in the conference between Norfolk State and Morgan State. The winner of this game will be in sole possession of second place in the MEAC currently. Both these teams still have one more game though left to play in MEAC conference play. As on Saturday, I think it is, or it might be Thursday. It's Thursday. Norfolk is going to play Howard in a big matchup where, yes, Norfolk still controls their own destiny, I believe, to the regular season championship if they win today and they beat Howard. Morgan State, they don't control their own destiny, but a win here would go a very long way for them. So, anyways, we're getting ready for the MEAC tourney with these two squads, and it's a huge matchup. I like Norfolk in this game. I know the Spartans have screwed us earlier this season, and it sucked when they played Grambling and they went out there and shot like 1 for 20 something to start their game. It was atrocious. It was one of the worst performances that I've ever seen. Norfolk has turned a page though recently, and they've been really good in the second half of MEAC conference play. They're heading into this Morgan State game off a huge winning streak, winning 5 consecutive games in a row after losing that initial matchup they played against Howard. And I know they did lose to the Bears of Morgan State in their first matchup in Norfolk. It was a 1-point L, and again, the Spartans have won 5 consecutive games since. They beat NC Central at home. They beat Delaware State at home. They went to Maryland Eastern Shore and won a game over there. They beat SC State, and then a Coppin State victory on the road as well, again giving them 5 in a row going into this matchup against Morgan State in a rematch. There is still an abundance of talent on Norfolk State. I think you have to say the most talent out of any team currently in the MEAC conference. Obviously, last season they had a stellar team. Brian Moore Jr., who's now at Grand Canyon University, was the MEAC Player of the Year, won the conference tournament MVP as well. Norfolk's not as good as they were last year. Do not get me wrong. They don't have the firepower offensively like they had on last year's team, but they're still decent enough, and they should still be able to beat Morgan State in a second matchup, obviously, in which a first game that they lost. But the 5-game winning streak is going to take them a long way. Morgan State has split their last 4, dating back to a loss at NC Central, back-to-back wins at home against Delaware State and South Carolina State, and then a blowout loss at home against Howard. Yes, Howard's been blowing everybody out. We'll see how Norfolk State's going to deal with Howard on Thursday. That could tell us a lot of things about how the MEAC conference tournament's going to play, but that's neither here or there. Don't love the fact, though, again, when Norfolk lost to Howard, they went to DC and got blown out. Morgan State, Howard went into Baltimore and beat them 84-59. I don't love that. And Morgan State's not the best defensive team. If you remember earlier in the season, Morgan State was looked at to be one of the worst teams in college basketball, right? I remember an earlier season matchup where we had Morgan State versus Niagara, and both these teams were at the bottom of the Ken Palm, and I took Morgan State in the game. They were at home. I was like, all right, both these teams suck, but I do like Morgan State a little bit more because they are at home, and I think they can score better than Niagara, and that was when we were obviously very down on the Purple Eagles. Regardless of all that, though, right, the Purple Eagles kind of salvaged themselves at the end of the year for us. But anyways, right, Morgan State wins that game, and since then, we haven't really talked much about the Bears, but they found themselves now at a 12-15 record and 8-4 in the conference. At the worst, they'll be the 3 seed in the MEAC conference tournament, a conference tournament that is only going to feature 7 teams rather than the normal 8, because Coppin State is ineligible for the tournament this season. I don't entirely know why. Coppin State, here we go, according to Wikipedia, Coppin State is ineligible to compete in the tournament due to academic progress rate penalties. How low does your team GPA got to be? I mean, isn't it like, I could be wrong, is it not 2.0? Maybe I'm wrong on that, but is it not 2.0 to be eligible? Maybe it's 2.5. But really, damn, okay. Well, not like Coppin State was going to do any damage in the tournament, but what that creates in this year's conference tourney is that the number 1 seed actually gets a bye. Now, normally you would play 1-11 Delaware State, who obviously is the worst team in the tournament, but now you just automatically go to the semifinals and take on the winner of the 4-5 game. So I guess, obviously, yes, it's going to mean something to be that 1 seed, and Norfolk still controls their own pathway to being that if they can win this game against Morgan State and get a victory over Howard on Thursday. If not, they'll be stuck in the 2 seed, which is a matchup against Delaware State, which, again, they're 1-11 and one of the worst teams in college basketball. But I think we have to remember going into this game between the Spartans and the Bears, what these 2 teams were to start the season. And I know ultimately that doesn't mean anything now, but just think about it. Again, Norfolk was supposed to be pretty solid this year. Again, they lose Brian Moore, they lose some guys from last year's team, but Anthony McComb and Elijah Jamison have done a great job taking over in those lead roles. McComb, the third's averaging 17 points per game. Elijah Jamison's averaging 14.5 points per game for the Spartans this season. They've got guys who can go out and get you points. Morgan State has struggled scoring-wise at times this season, but obviously Alfred Worrell Jr. has been a very solid scorer for this team, a senior out of Washington, D.C., averaging 17.5 points per game. Was held to only 6th, though, over the weekend against the Bison, but again, he's been a pretty dominant scorer for this team all year long, played last year over in the Sun Belt for Southern Mississippi. Anyways, I'm taking Norfolk. Again, it's a talent thing in this game for me. The better talent's on Norfolk State. I believe the better talent is going to prevail and ultimately win this contest. That's kind of how I see this one going and how this plays out. Norfolk's won 5 consecutive games going into this one. I know Morgan State's last loss is Howard, and a lot of teams lose to Howard, but I mean, they did lose recently to NC Central, who is the hotter basketball team right now. It's by far Norfolk. And yes, we have talked about their consistent struggles throughout the season, or at least earlier in the season, but that's a main key. That was earlier in the season. As of late, yes, they've gotten hot. They've played really good basketball. I'm not telling you they're going to parlay all of that into a MEAC conference tournament championship, but this is the preseason favorite. This is supposed to be the best team in the conference, and right now they're playing like it. So I'm going to take them to go on the road and beat Morgan State. They're coming off a road victory at Coppin State, who I understand is not great, but I'll take a road victory at Maryland Eastern Shore. I know they've fallen off a cliff too, and they started off hot in conference play and they've cooled down, but I'll take a win on the road there. I think Norfolk's playing better, and I think they will get a victory here, and a massive one, obviously, down the stretch in MEAC conference play. So I'm going to go Norfolk State on the road at Morgan State. I think they get revenge from that initial matchup that, again, was a 1-point victory for the Bears. Final score is 79-38. Norfolk got out to a hot start, and they were leading that game pretty much throughout for the most part. Again, a very competitive game throughout, but Norfolk's up 7 points with 90 seconds left to go, and it's an 8-0 run for Morgan State to win the basketball game, in a game in which Norfolk opened as a minus 450 favorite. That was part of their cold spell, though, to start MEAC conference play. I don't think it continues here. Obviously, hasn't continued, and I don't think it's going to pick back up here. Norfolk State wins the basketball game, straight money line in this one, minus 135 for the Spartans on the road in Baltimore against the Morgan State Bears. On to our second best bet of the video, we move to the ACC. I very, very rarely pick Duke Blue Devils basketball games, but I'm going to do it. Okay, yes, we did engage in some Duke action last weekend when they played Michigan, and I bit and took the Wolverines. That's my bad. I'm willing to acknowledge right now, yes, Cameron Boozer and the Duke Blue Devils are the best team in college basketball. Okay? I said this about a week ago, how I'm not a fan of ACC hoops. Let me clarify. I'm not a fan of ESPN Duke primetime ACC hoops. And why do I say that? It's because most games that end up on ESPN from Duke are blowouts. And that's obviously this season I'm referring to, okay? Throughout the course of Duke basketball, some of my favorite memories watching college basketball, I know this is very recent, but I have to say it is, was when Zion Williamson was at Duke, okay? When Zion Williamson would play on ESPN at Duke, it was a big deal. I mean, when I was going to school, when I was younger, everyone would be talking about when Zion, or, oh crap, Zion's playing tonight. And obviously, the craziest night was when Zion's shoe exploded and whatnot. But why is this relevant? Again, I'm just telling you, I'm not opposed to Duke Blue Devils basketball, okay? Like, I appreciate what Duke has done, obviously. I get it. And, I know why they're on national television. But I'm telling you, that 18-19 season when Duke was, rolling through everyone for the most part, and Zion's shoe blew out, I mean, we were, again, we'd be at school and everyone would be talking about, oh, we can't wait for Duke to play Boston College tonight. And this is coming from a school, it's no secret I live in the Bay Area, where everyone talks about the NBA. But that one season, everyone was all over college basketball that year. It was because of Duke and Zion. So again, some of my favorite memories ever watching college basketball was watching Duke, RJ Barrett, Zion Williamson at Cameron Indoor Stadium. RJ Barrett at Cameron Indoor Stadium, phenomenal stuff. But this season, I haven't really watched much Duke basketball, at least prioritized watching Duke Blue Devils basketball, because here's the thing, and this is how great they are. I'm expecting Duke to win every single game that they play. With the exception of legitimately the game against Michigan, I've kind of expected them to win every single game this season. There's been some exceptions, but at least in the ACC, I've never expected Duke to not win this season in the ACC. Even the North Carolina loss, we didn't pick it, but I expected Duke to go to Chapel Hill and beat UNC, and why didn't I pick it? Because I thought that exact reason, and I was like, I don't want to take the points here. So we are looking at Duke today, and obviously we will have to talk about Duke once we get into the ACC tournament and once we get into the NCAA tournament. I'd be shocked if Duke at the very least doesn't make the Elite Eight. I got to imagine they're going to get there. Probably a good chance they'll be in the Final Four, but again, matchups are everything in that tournament, so we shall see. All it takes is a really good big to, not beat up, but a really good big to limit what Cameron Boozer can do, but that's neither here or there. Duke versus NC State tonight. Okay, this should be a pummeling. It should. Everything I look at, this should be Duke by 15 plus. And that's the truth. Okay, North Carolina State has not played great basketball as of late. And the matchup to watch is going to be Van Allen Lubin versus Cameron Boozer, obviously, right? That's going to be the banging of the bigs. That's not how I wanted to come out. That's going to be the bigs matchup, obviously, right? And we'll talk about Duke Blue Devils basketball and, what they do. Obviously, and they do it really well. And Cameron Boozer, again, is maybe the best player in college basketball. I'm not saying, again, he's the number one pick and he's got the most potential going to the NBA, but just as a pure college basketball player, it may as well be Cameron Boozer number one. He's had such a great season this season. But anyways, right, I think Duke should blow this team out. Honestly, and I get it. Games in Raleigh, games at the Lenovo Center. It's a difficult place to play, I will say. I've been there once. It's a pretty damn big arena. I went back when it was the PNC Arena, not for an NC State game, not for a Hurricanes game, but for a Travis Scott concert. Anyways, Tizo touchdown was. No, I'll stop. Anyways, Raleigh's a interesting place, I will say. Yeah, best chicken and waffles I've ever had was in Raleigh, North Carolina, by the way. Anyways, downtown Raleigh. Regardless, though, NC State has sucked their last couple games. Now, some of these games have been really tight and they've lost, but they've lost 4 of 5 going into this one. And they haven't gotten necessarily blown out yet in Raleigh, which I get it. You haven't played Duke, though. That's the problem. So 4 of their last 5, they've been losers. Losing at the KFC Yum Center, which oddly enough I've been there too, but losing at the KFC Yum Center in Louisville to the Louisville Cardinals. Again, did not go for a Louisville basketball game, went for All Elite Wrestling, but that's neither here nor there. NC State loses to Miami at home by 1 point. They beat North Carolina and blow the Tar Heels out, obviously a Caleb Wilson-less UNC team. And then now back-to-back losses going into this game, losing on Tuesday at Virginia, getting blown out by 29 points, and that disastrous loss in overtime to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Just one you don't want to take at this point in the year, but it is what it is. It happened. So now they're rolling into the Duke game after losing in South Bend, Indiana to Notre Dame. Against the number 1 overall seed currently in college basketball. North Carolina State, according to ESPN, has dropped to an 8 seed. They'd be projected to play UCLA in the first round. I'm sorry I'd take UCLA to beat North Carolina State. I just would. But we shall see where obviously they go. I mean, if they lose this game, it's not going to affect them at all. It's the number 1 team in the country. But still, how does this specific game play out? I think North Carolina State's going to struggle with Cameron Boozer. And that's the thing. Everybody struggles with Cameron Boozer. You know, I mean, it's very rare do you see a game where Cameron Boozer is not, giving you at least 20 and 10. That's just what he does on a nightly occurrence. It's a nightly thing for him. He's going to go out there. He'll feed him the ball in the post. He's going to back you down. And either he's going to find an easy lay or you're going to be forced to foul him, and he hits every single free throw he attempts. Last 2 games for Cameron Boozer, 12 free throw attempts against UVA goes 11 for 12, 14 free throw attempts in South Bend against Notre Dame, he goes 12 for 14. And obviously he's got the 3-point game as well. He's not going to take more than 4, but he's not a horrible 3-point shooter by any stretch of the imagination. Cameron Boozer is shooting 40% from beyond the arc this season. Again, the volume is not crazy from that 3-point distance, but again, it's a part of the game. And he is very dangerous. And it's not just a one-man squad, obviously, right? There's more players alongside Boozer, and that's what I would argue makes them even more dangerous. Well, it obviously makes them more dangerous, but this is what makes this team, specifically dangerous, is because Isaiah Evans can come out and give you 20 every single night, right? If you need him to. Isaiah Evans is capable of that. He's had some monster games recently, right? Patrick Gongba, their center, obviously, has been very good throughout the course of the season. Obviously, you get guys like Caden Boozer, Caleb Foster, Dame Sarr, the other guards around Boozer and Evans. Like, there are really good players up and down the roster for the Duke Blue Devils, and that's something that North Carolina State's going to struggle to contain. Again, Van Allen Lubin's the guy to watch out for if you're Duke in this spot. Lubin's averaging 14-7 going into this game, coming off a 24-10 performance against the Fighting Irish, and he will likely be tasked, I would have to assume, with Cameron Boozer, I believe. We shall see, but I just don't think North Carolina State's got the scoring to keep up, and I don't know how they play defensively against Boozer in this matchup either. Watch out for Darian Williams, right, leading scorer this season for the Wolfpack. He's their 3 out of Sacramento, California, fourth-year senior, averaging 14 points per game, right, Nevada, then Texas Tech, now here with the Wolfpack. Dropped 17 in the loss to Notre Dame, but I just believe it's going to be difficult for this Wolfpack team against such a loaded Duke squad. I'm going to take the Blue Devils to go on the road and beat the NC State Wolfpack and cover the 9 points as well. This is an ice-cold NC State team likely heading into the ACC tournament. We move on now to our third best bet of the video, and here we go. Conference tournament madness begins. All right. We go to the Wolstein Center, Cleveland, Ohio, for the Barbasol sponsoring us? Okay. The Barbasol Horizon League Championship play-in round. It's the play-in round between, make sure I get my seeds right here, between IU Indy and, of course, the Cleveland State Vikings. Again, let me just make sure I get the seeds right. Yes, okay, this is the 10 seed Cleveland State taking on the 11 seed in IU Indianapolis. The winner will advance to Wednesday night, going to Wright State to the Nutter Center, I believe that it is, right? I think I'm right there. Going to play the Nutter Center in the Nutter Center against Wright State on Wednesday. So it's a play-in round game. Obviously, every other team has been already seeded in this tournament. You've got the matchups. Robert Morris, the 2 seed, playing Youngstown State, who's the 9. 3-8 is Detroit Mercy versus Milwaukee. 4-7, Oakland versus Northern Kentucky. 5-6, Green Bay versus Purdue Fort Wayne. I believe this thing reseeds, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is how this works, right? It reseeds. Let me get this right. So they're all going to play a first-round matchup. Here, I'll just show you the bracket while I'm at it. We might as well just do this right now, okay? I'll show you the bracket right now. Here it is, okay? So we'll go over all of these tournaments obviously tomorrow I guess starting tomorrow because I will still do best bets obviously, but I do believe it's important to talk about every single conference tournament while we're at it though. So anyways, this is how it's gonna work, right? Cleveland State plays IU Indy today. The winner is gonna play Wright State obviously, right? But from there, if I got this right, that entire first round is going to be played. The 2 highest seeded winners will automatically advance to the semifinals, while it's the 3 highest, because it's 5 games. The 3 highest seeded winners will move to the semifinals automatically, and the 2 lowest seeds remaining will have to play in an additional second round. So it gets confusing, but essentially, the way I see it, and I'm pretty sure this is correct, it has to be, Wright State, Robert Morris, and Detroit Mercy all control their own destiny to the semifinals. You win your game, you're automatically going to the semifinals. If one of them gets upset, though, then that's where we get tricky, because then, Oakland could immediately advance to the semifinals. Essentially, what that also means is, if you're Cleveland State, IU Indy, Milwaukee, or Youngstown State, and you win in the first round, you automatically have to play again to get into the semifinals. So it's kind of the Horizon League's way of guaranteeing their best teams are going to end up with the chance to go dancing, obviously, with March Madness. So that's how I believe that tournament's going to function. Anyways, we're looking at the play-in round game today. By the way, all these games are on campus sites until that second round begins in Indianapolis on the 8th, which that is Sunday. Wow, interesting. Okay, so Cleveland State, IU Indy. I'm taking the Jaguars. I will say this, the line movement's been interesting. So I will say I've been looking at this game a little bit more than the other games today, obviously, right? Because, these are some big games. Duke, North Carolina State's a big game. You saw it on the thumbnail. Iowa State versus Arizona is coming up next. It's a big game, right? But this one's, win or go home. And sure, I know a lot of teams have already been eliminated. A handful of teams have already been eliminated in the world of college basketball because they weren't even good enough to qualify for their conference tourney. Obviously, the Ivy League boots all their teams except for the top 4, and then they randomly sit their teams for a whole 2 weeks, and they play their conference tournament in 12 days from now. Regardless of all that, though, right? Some teams have already been eliminated, but this is just different, right? Because these are truly, win or go home games. So you see desperation out of these teams. You see anything imaginable. That's what makes these games so fun to watch. Because again, tonight you're going to watch IU Indy and Cleveland State, which I understand are, this is a 7-24 team and a 10-21 team, though, play with the absolute most desperation imaginable and do anything possible to extend their season for one more game where, yes, they'd have to go to the number 1 seed and play Wright State, but that's how the Horizon League is right now. Nobody's really that much better than everybody else. So again, I'm not saying the Jaguars and the Vikings could plausibly go to the Nutter Center and win, but there's a chance they could. Again, I believe Wright State plays in the Nutter Center. If that's not them, I apologize. Regardless, I'm going IU Indy. I love the spot for the Jaguars here. I know we picked them earlier in the year and did not go our way. If you've watched an IU Indy game, it's annoying if you bet against them, but I will explain to you every single IU Indy game right now. High pace, they get out and run every single possession they're running. They play like the Indiana Pacers, just a collegiate version of them. Obviously, it's not that good, right? Well, not with the full court press. Like the Pacers obviously don't full court press. But if you score an IU Indy, they are taking the ball out immediately and immediately pushing it down court, right? It's going to be quick inbound, get to your point guard. It's usually D'Agostino. If D'Agostino can find something down court, he's going to launch it down court. He's going to go huge outlet pass, try to find a quick layup. If not, D'Agostino is going to run the ball up court and he's going to look to immediately shoot or pass it to another perimeter guy, and they're going to get off a quick shot no matter what. That's why all these IU Indy games are super high scoring. It's just the way that they play, which makes it fun to watch, but it's difficult if you're playing them and you're not ready for it. Obviously, Cleveland State's already played them twice this season. Now, the Vikings have taken a massive fall off from a dominant 2024-2025 campaign in which they lost the CBI championship against Illinois State. This is a team that was, I believe, they were the 1 seed, if I'm not mistaken, last year in the Horizon League Conference Tournament. Now they've fallen to 10th, but it's a Cleveland State team going into this game who's now lost 7 consecutive games against IU Indy team that has lost 6 consecutive games. So something's got to give in this one. But why do I like IU Indy so much? Well, here's one thing before I get into that. Sorry. I've looked at the lines. This opened at -3 for Cleveland State. It's come down now to -1.5. Money's coming in on IU Indy. I don't want to read too much into that, but I will say that means a little bit that, public money is going on IU Indy, and that's interesting because this is a team that's on the road in the first round of the conference tournament, who's 7-24 and 3-17 in their conference. But I will say they are an extremely tough team to beat. I know teams have done it this season, but they're tough as it is to beat in the regular season because a lot of their games are just really close and they lose. But now you're taking on a team who full court presses you every single possession. They never let up. If they get an officiating crew that's going to give them some leeway in terms of getting handsy, they're even more dangerous. And they, you feel like they play desperate as it is. Wait till what they do tonight. This is the peak of desperation. They're playing with their season on the line, and what do they have to lose? Absolutely nothing. Cleveland State was supposed to be at the top of this tournament. They're supposed to be at the top of this conference. IU Indy wasn't expected to be anything, and here you are. You get a chance to knock off one of the preseason favorites in the play-in round? To me, I don't think Cleveland State's playing for much. IU Indy's playing to prove a point and take all that momentum into next season. That's how I see it. And on top of that as well, Cleveland State still without their leading scorer. They're 4 in Dayan Nessa. Nessa, their Swiss sophomore, has been out since he got injured against Wright State on the 15th of February. I've not seen anything indicating he's making a return tonight, so that's a massive loss. Trey Beards picked up some of the scoring. Chevalier Emery, they both averaged 13. I like the Jags here, man. Kyler DiAugustino, McGuire Mitchell, Jackson Edwards, Micah Davis, Finley Woodard. It's 4. It's kind of like Cal Poly basketball, just not as good. And they attack the basket a lot more, I'll be honest. But they play 4 guards and a 6'7" forward. And all right, if you're gonna beat us, you're gonna have to play that pace against us for 40 straight minutes. I just don't think Cleveland State's legitimately up to this task. I mean, this is a defeated team already, and you could say that about IU Indy too, but IU Indy has been playing so many close games recently. 6-point loss to Purdue Fort Wayne, 10-point loss to Oakland, 10-point loss to Wright State, 5-point loss to Purdue Fort Wayne again, 3-point loss against Northern Kentucky. The last time these two teams met as well, IU Indy won. The Jaguars beat Cleveland State. Now, game was in Indianapolis, but that was a game still, though, where obviously Cleveland State's leading scorer Nessa was still playing. They met earlier in the season at Cleveland State, but that was back in December. That's all the way back in 2025. We don't care about that. Momentum, believe it or not, with you got a team on a 6-game losing streak versus a team on a 7-game losing streak. The momentum is on the team of the 6-game losing streak. I'm going IU Indy on the road at the Wolstein Center, pulling off the massive upset to kick off the Horizon League Conference Tournament. It's March. Expect crazy stuff. Jaguars on the road in Cleveland win the game over the Cleveland State Vikings. On now to our 4th best bet of the video. Again, we go from mid-major tournament action to the Big 12, and obviously a massive game. You saw it in the thumbnail, 2 versus 4 as of right now. I'm recording this video on late Sunday night, obviously before the rankings come out. I do not expect Iowa State to be ranked number 4, obviously, with their loss at home at Hilton Coliseum to Texas Tech. Yikes. All I'm saying is Texas Tech's playing a lot better than I thought they would. Without JT Toppin, I didn't know if this season for the Red Raiders was going to kind of fall apart or not, but no, they've completely kept it together, and I got to give a lot of credit to that Texas Tech squad, who is now very underrated going into the tournament, I will say. Massively underrated is Texas Tech, right? If those guards get going, they're still really dangerous. I'll just leave it at that for now. Again, Big 12 is just crazy loaded. Anyways, but they want you to believe the SEC is the best conference in basketball. Get out of here. Iowa State versus Arizona. So again, I can't imagine Iowa State's still going to be at 4. They probably drop to 7? Maybe. No. Well, the question is, who are they going to put in front of Iowa State? No, they probably can't drop lower than 6, right? UConn's going to jump them. We can guess that. UConn's going to jump them. Are they going to have Houston jump Iowa State's the question. Probably not. I mean, because the Kansas loss still takes into effect. Actually, Iowa State just might be 5. Purdue can't jump them. Zaga can't jump them. Illinois can't jump them. Unless they have... oh, goodness. Are they going to have Florida jump Iowa State? They might do it. They might. Florida keeps winning. No, honestly, if I'm ranking them, I'm putting Iowa State at 5. I don't think... I know Houston lost on Monday, but I don't think they can jump Iowa State. Obviously, because Iowa State beat them in Ames. Yeah, I think you're going to see UConn in at 4. That's the only difference. And Iowa State's going to be 5. So this should be 2 versus 5, I would assume, tonight. Still a massive game. I think Arizona puts belt to ass, though. It's just the truth. Look how well this team played against Kansas. I mean, that's an ass kicking. And Kansas goes on their run, right? They go on their run halfway through the second half. They cut it to 2 at one point, and immediately Arizona responds with the 3. But I mean, Kansas is really good still. And I've been tracking it. I still really like Kansas to make the Final Four. Again, that's all dependent on Darren Peterson and if he feels like he's enjoying basketball or not during March. But if Peterson has a really good March and establishes himself as number 1 in the draft, which again, I still think he's the best pure talent coming into the draft. Yes, over Devonsta, yes, over Boozer. But if Kansas gets going, yeah, they're going to be really dangerous. And, they've struggled on the road all year long. It's March Madness. It's the NCAA tournament. This is all in neutral sites. So not like they're going to have to walk into Arizona. They're going to have to walk into Hilton Coliseum. It's a lot different, obviously, once you get into March. Anyways, and we'll see again how they fare like in the Big 12 tournament. So again, that's just a test run basically for Kansas. Can they make a deep run in that? And how many games will they win? How do they play against one of these elite teams like Zona, Iowa State, Houston, or Texas Tech? We shall see. Anyways, tonight's matchup, Arizona versus Iowa State. I like Arizona because of, again, what they just did to Kansas at home. You bring Koa Pete back, plays 23 minutes, scores 12 points. But that starting 5, when they're all playing, they're pretty nasty. Braden Burries, Jaden Bradley, Krivas, Koa Pete, Karchenkov. Karchenkov's the one who hits that 3. He goes 1 for 3 from beyond the arc against Kansas. But that 3 that he hits to weather the storm against Kansas, right? The Jayhawks are going on a massive run in that second half. They cut it to 2 points, 2-point deficit to Arizona. And Karchenkov hits that huge 3 to immediately put it back to 5. Kansas never got closer than a 2-point deficit in which they got to, again, with like 11 minutes to go in the second half. So Arizona ultimately goes on a huge run to close the half, and they win the game 84-61. It's a 23-point victory for the Wildcats. And here comes Iowa State, an Iowa State team that's now lost 2 out of their last 3 games. They lost in Provo to Brigham Young a week ago Saturday. They then go to Salt Lake City and obviously beat the Utes of Utah. And then recently the loss at home at Hilton Coliseum, where they almost never lose to Texas Tech. Again, a JT Toppin-less Texas Tech team. So Iowa State's coming in this game 2 out of 3 L's. I've already, voiced my concerns with this team going into the tournament. Iowa State, it's very, it's not a secret. They are an awful free throw shooting team. And that's, just watching college basketball, obviously you can probably tell, like, the main difference, I would say, between, and it's like the most glaring difference is not like how players, play, how they appear. It's not even the crowd. To me, it's how mid-major teams shoot free throws compared to, obviously, teams like, teams in the Big 12, teams in the Big 10, the Power 5 schools. Iowa State can't hit free throws. As a team, they're a 60% free throw shooting team. But that gets bumped by Milan Malikovic shooting 90% from the free throw line. Joshua Jefferson shoots 70, but then Tamin Lipsey shoots 60% from the line. Blake Buchanan's a 45% free throw shooter. Everyone on their bench shoots 50% or less. That's a problem. That's a real problem. And in the tournament, if you can't hit free throws, you're probably not going to go on a run. You can win games. You're not making that run to win the entire thing. So again, that's just my concern. It's always been my concern with Iowa State. And they're a very off and on 3-point shooting team. Like even Nate Heisey, by the way, is a phenomenal, corner shooter. That's kind of just where he sits all game long. And that guy's a 62% free throw shooter, give or take. Don't love that. So anyways, they're taking on Arizona. I think they're outmanned by the Wildcats tonight. And that's not a knock on Iowa State. It's just everyone's kind of outmanned against this team right now. Arizona, there's a reason they're number 2 in the country. A lot of people make the case that they should be number 1. Their only losses are Kansas on the road without Darren Peterson and Texas Tech at home in overtime. That's it. They've now won 4 consecutive games after dropping those 2 in a row. They beat BYU at home. They walk into Houston and win on a huge Saturday game. They beat Baylor in Waco, and they beat the Jayhawks at home again in their last game on Saturday by a whopping 23 points. When they are at full strength, are they dangerous? Oh my goodness. And that's where they are now. Again, Burries, Bradley, Koa Pete. What if Anthony Del Orso has a game off the bench? The problem with Arizona, though, going into the tournament, they don't shoot 3-pointers. At least, they don't shoot them consistently. And they don't love to shoot the 3-point ball. That's always my concern with this team. Again, I think both these teams are flawed going into the tournament. But obviously, I'll take Arizona, who's more dependent on driving and attacking the paint, rather than a team that can't make free throws. Anyways, going back to this specific game, I think Arizona is just going to outwill this team tonight. I really believe Iowa State, if they can't hit anything from beyond the arc tonight, which I think they're going to struggle against a pretty good defensive team, I just think they're going to be in for a long night. I look at Iowa State, again, Milan, 17-point per game scorer. Joshua Jefferson averages 17 as well. Lipsey's averaging 13. Against Arizona, I just don't know I don't know how much that's going to work tonight. I just don't know how effective these guys are going to be. And I don't love losing at home to Texas Tech because that's Iowa State's whole thing. They don't lose at Hilton Coliseum. It's one of the toughest places to play in college basketball, right? You saw them beat Houston. They were down, 7-8 points, 3 minutes to go, and they came back and won. They are just they have that mystique around them. They don't lose at Hilton Coliseum. They haven't been a great road team this year. They lost in Provo. They were outgunned by Brigham Young. They lost in Fort Worth to Texas Christian. Cincinnati beat them in Ohio. Kansas obviously beat them at Allen Fieldhouse. All of their losses have come on the road up until their last game where they lost at home to Texas Tech. Joshua Jefferson's had some good games, but I'm going Arizona here. I think the Wildcats have too much talent. I think Arizona's going to take this one. I'm going to go Wildcats to cover the spread. I'm seeing -7.5 and -7, so I'm going to take the -7. If it is 7.5, 100% still playable, but I'm going to go with the spread tonight for the Arizona Wildcats at home against the Iowa State Cyclones. Just think there's too many big-time players in Arizona for Iowa State to keep up with, and I would keep an eye on Iowa State going into the tournament. They're a good team. Are they a good tournament team, though? That's a clear, there's a clear distinction in that. I just, again, want to put that out there. Iowa State currently, I assume, is going to be going to be a 2, obviously, not a 4. Ranked 4th right now. Probably going to be a 2 seed. I'm just saying, they might be on upset watch in the round of 32. ESPN's got them projected to play the winner of Wisconsin, Missouri in the second round. I'm not telling you Wisconsin outright beats Iowa State, but when you just look at that game from a matchup standpoint, what if Wisconsin just gets really hot from 3 and Iowa State can't answer? Just saying, Iowa State, great defensive team, but what if Wisconsin just has one of those days where both their centers are hitting threes, Nick Boyd and Blackwell are hitting their shots? Then what happens? Just saying, watch out for Iowa State falling apart in the tournament. There's a potential for that happening. I don't know. Not saying for sure. Arizona on the points. Final best bet of the video, we end things tonight in the Big Sky as we've got the Idaho State Bengals going on the road to take on the Sacramento State Hornets from Hornet Pavilion, obviously in Sacramento, California. I like Sac State a lot here. I know Sacramento State lost a lot of games. This team had shown potential throughout the season and capabilities of actually being pretty legit throughout the course of the season. But now they've hit a rough patch, obviously, right? Sacramento State at one point in time was 5-5 in the Big Sky and 9-14 as a whole. Since then, they have now lost 7 consecutive games. They now find themselves at 9-20 and 5-12 in their conference. 7 straight losses to Portland State at home by 1 point, a road loss in Northern Colorado, a road loss at Northern Arizona, a home loss to Eastern Washington where EWU scored 102 points on them, a home loss to Idaho, 86-60, and then back-to-back road losses in the state of Montana to both Montana and to Montana State. So they lose in Bozeman and they lose in Missoula as well. I flipped it. Montana is Missoula, Montana State's Bozeman. Anyways, it's been rough for them recently, but early in Big Sky play, they were great. They'd won 3 consecutive games to get them to 9-13 and 5-5 in the conference, and those were against Montana State, Montana, and Weber State. But as a whole this season, yeah, Sac State has been a lot better at home. I know they slipped up in their last home game losing to Idaho. I don't really care about a loss to Eastern Washington. The Eagles are a sneaky dark horse to win the Big Sky. I know it'd be kind of a shock because of their record, but I mean, I've watched a lot of what Isaiah Moses and the Eagles have done this season. They're tough. They are a really tough team to beat, and there's a chance. I mean, they're going to wind up being a potential 3 seed in the tournament with a 13-17 record. I could 100% see them, being a 17-17 team that kind of gets overlooked going into March. Probably a 15 seed in the tourney. Probably will still lose in the first round, but could give, I don't know, they could give Purdue problems. If Purdue's a 2, which they shouldn't be. But anyways, right, I'm just saying. No, Purdue's going to be a 2. Probably. I don't know. Anyways, Sac State versus Idaho State tonight. I like Sacramento State. So Sacramento State, much better home team than road team, and Idaho State's an awful and atrocious road team. Very good at home. Well, I wouldn't say very good at home, but better at home. I've talked about this throughout the course of the year. Idaho State has really, they're not as much as Hawaii, which, by the way, I didn't talk about Hawaii's buzzer beater the other day at Davis with Dre Bullock. So good for the Rainbow Warriors. No, sorry, at Fullerton, not against Davis, against Fullerton. So I guess good for those guys. Yeah, really, really excited for you guys going into the Big Sky tourney. I still think, I don't know who wins. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised at this point if Cal Poly wins that thing. I know that sounds absolutely insane, but I legitimately, momentum's a real thing. I know they just lost to UCSD. Don't be shocked if the Mustangs legitimately win that from the 8 seed. I don't know. Anyways, so good on Hawaii. But my point with all this being is Idaho State, they don't have Hawaii levels of rigged officiating, but it's horrible. Idaho State always gets, I don't know what it is. I've seen it like at least 4 or 5 times this season. Games in Idaho, the Bengals get the majority of the doubt and the benefit of the doubt in all their games. It's crazy with their calls. Right, started earlier in the year at the Sam Houston game. I saw it in the Montana game where unbelievable Montana went in here and lost to Idaho State. It sucked. But as a whole, this is not a great team. They are very dependent on a big scoring night, and they've gotten big scoring nights recently out of Gus Etchison. Etchison had 29 against Montana in the win, 36 against Montana State, and then came back down to earth, only scoring 15 against Weber State. But this is a player, senior 5'11 point guard out of Indiana, who averages 8.5 points per game, played his first 2 years of collegiate ball over in Kalamazoo for Western Michigan, and now here is with Idaho State. Was on the bench for most majority of the season, now actually in a starting role, and he's playing really well. But anyways, Idaho State has not won a road game this season in the Big Sky. At least, they've only won one. Not in a while. That should have came out of my mouth. They haven't won a road game in the Big Sky in a while. January 10th is the last time they've won a road game in the Big Sky. That was against Northern Arizona. Since then, they've done nothing but lose on the road, losing in Bozeman, losing in Missoula, in Ogden, Utah to Weber State, in Portland, in Cheney, Washington, I believe is Eastern Washington. I don't know where losing next to the Kibbe Dome in Idaho. I don't know what city Idaho is. But they've lost to all these teams on the road, and their only road victory again in the conference is going to be a very bad Northern Arizona Lumberjacks team. A team in which every team in the Big Sky has the capabilities. I'm not saying they'd all do it, but they all have the capabilities of walking into NAU and winning. So it's been an awful road team. The Bengals have been an awful road team this season. Sacramento State's been a great home team. It's the final conference game, obviously, for both teams as the Big Sky tournament is going to start this Friday, is it? This Friday? This Saturday, the Big Sky Conference tournament starts, and we are going to find out a lot today about the seeding for this tournament. Well, kind of, because I believe there's a tiebreaker here. Yes, okay, so I believe if Sac State loses, they're going to find themselves playing Idaho in the first round. If they win tonight, they're going to find themselves playing Idaho State. So that's the difference. If you're Sac State, you much rather play this team again than have to play the Idaho Vandals, who are still fairly solid. So that's the big, I guess, talking point going. Oh wait, I forgot how this tournament works. It's 9 versus 10 and 7 versus 8, not 7 versus 10 and 9 versus 8. Oh, never mind. Sac State is playing to play Idaho. They're playing for an 8 seed. So the winner of this game will be the 8 seed in the Big Sky. The loser will be the 9 seed, and the loser is going to get a better draw because you have to play Northern Arizona. The problem is if you win the Northern Arizona game, then you have to play Portland State in the first round as the 1 seed. If you win the 7-8 game against Idaho, you get to play Montana State or Eastern Washington. I think it's Montana State. So in the long run, yes, if you think you can actually win the tournament, you'd rather be the 7-8 games so you can beat Montana State, right? Because it's a way easier matchup than playing Portland State. Regardless, I don't think either the Bengals nor the Hornets have aspirations of going to the NCAA tournament and winning the Big Sky this season, but maybe they do, again, with Dr. Shaquille O'Neal as the general manager of Sacramento State Hornets basketball, but that's neither here or there. I like Sac State tonight because they're at home. It's their senior night, brand new facility in Sacramento, California, and they have a player by the name of Prophet Johnson, a guy that I know can probably get into the 20s tonight, hasn't gotten in the 20s in 3 straight games, but should be the best player on the court in my opinion. Right? Idaho State led by Connor Hollenbeck. Hollenbeck's been kind of just iffy last couple games. Hollenbeck senior out of Rapid City, South Dakota, my goodness. Second year with Idaho State, but recently, right, we've talked about it, it's been their point guard, their 5'11 point guard, and Gus Etchison, who's really taken over and been their best and primary scorer. Caleb Van Den Griend is a senior out of Washington's averaging 12 points per game. He's been their second leading scorer this year. Sacramento State, right, you're looking at Prophet Johnson. Mikey Williams is the second leading scorer on this team. Williams, though, has been out since the Portland State game, so they've looked to other guards to get it done. Johnny Summers is their main guard now. He's averaging 10 points per game on the year, but then dropped a whopping 0 points against Montana State. So again, we're really looking at Prophet Johnson. Yes, Shaq's son plays on this team too, and Shaquille O'Neal. He averages 5 points per game, and he also put up a whopping 0 points in their last game. Oh my goodness. He starts though, Shakir. I'm taking Sac State. At home, I expect a better performance. I don't think Idaho State's that good at all. They don't play well away from Idaho. Prophet Johnson's the best player on the court. He should find his way to probably 25 in this game. Idaho State's not going to have the refs in their back pocket. I think Sac State wins. There's a reason Sacramento State, who's lost 7 consecutive games, is still a favorite in this matchup at home. I like them to get this one against Idaho State. And they've been playing some close games. They just haven't all gone their way. Idaho 6-point loss, EWU 8-point loss where they gave up 102 points. Montana 8-point loss. Idaho State's 1-2 recently, but those are in Idaho. I don't care. Idaho State did win the first game, but again, game was in Idaho. I just don't care. I want Sacramento State at home. Give me the Hornets -125 to close the video. Folks, thank y'all for watching our college basketball best bets here on March 2nd. If you haven't yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you just agree with any of the picks. We'll be back tomorrow for more daily college basketball best bets. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.